Hi guys, welcome back to our podcast Behind the Beat. Today I'm here with my dad again, and we're just gonna get straight into it. We're gonna be talking about lyrics today and just the overall influence on us and how it related to the public and how it relates to the artist. So yeah, we're just gonna get right into it.
Song lyrics, one of my favorite topics, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I every time I hear a line, somebody says something, it brings to mind a song, and I start inevitably
Yeah,
singing
singing
that
it.
song. So this will be fun for us.
Okay, and we loved all your feedback from our last video, and feel free
Yeah,
to add more to this one. We love it,
and any
and
recommendations of things you want us to talk about?
oh yeah, we love that. Um, this segment will be a reoccurring segment that will happen throughout our videos. We love lyrics, and I think we also find a lot of songs that connect with us. So we would love to share that. So this is probably a part one of many about lyrics. But today we're going to be focusing on ones that are impactful for us and also can tell a lot about the artist and how it relates to a lot of certain different demographic of people and just yeah.
So as you can see, Rachel and I are both wearing matching shirts today that I bought on some random website for to show lyrics from the Smiths song.
Yes.
In fact, that actually was what kind of made me think about our topic today, because there's a line from a Smith song called Rubber Ring that says, "Don't forget the songs that made you cry and the songs that saved your life." So we're going to talk about songs that impacted us, whether it made us cry, saved our
Yeah.
life, maybe changed our perspective on something, resonated with us in the world, or maybe even songs that kind of spoke to our soul or whatever that
For
really
sure.
impacted us. So,
Hmm.
Rachel, you'll go ahead and start.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off at the top of my mind. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. I really just love this song because I think it just shows a lot of vulnerability and vulnerability you feel in like relationships, whether it's all friends or like even sometimes your family relationships or whatever. Just like or just your relationship with the world and how that sees you. Sometimes I feel like I don't like being perceived, and I don't like being assumed of, and I just think some that song where it's like the lyrics where it's like I just don't want the world to see me because I don't think they would understand. Like, because I feel that way sometimes where it's like you guys like you can't see me like that because you don't understand. You don't understand like how I'm like this or how certain people are like this because yeah and
So
yeah.
that line in particular, which I don't want the world to see me
Mm.
because I don't think they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken,
I just want you to know who I am.
just want you to know. So
I
yeah, I
love
mean,
that.
it's more than just not being seen, or like, I think it's a level of like, hey, everything's messed up.
Hmm.
I just want you and me to be okay.
Exactly. And I feel that way sometimes when it's like, even with my family or with my friends, where it's like maybe there's something I don't know people like have said or something where it's like, no, I don't want them like I don't want you to see me like that. I don't like you don't they don't understand. I want you to see me. I want you to see me for who I am, and I don't want you to like I don't know. Sometimes like
Yeah.
that's just I don't know. I think that lyrics were really meaningful, and I think that connects with a lot of people. Just like um, kind of, especially with like past, with your past. Sometimes you don't want to be assumed by your past or assumed by things you've been through, but you want people to assume you by how you treat them and how um, I don't know how the relationship is and how everything. I don't know. I just really love that song, so that's why I wanted to take a second to talk
Well,
about that.
I mean, that's a mark of a good song. It has a lyric that hits with you. Whether it's like what's going on in your life, like
Mm-hmm.
you talked about, being, you're a teenager, right? You
Right.
have all of we talked about this last time when I was discovering grunge music, the angst that comes with just being alive when
Yeah.
you're a teenager, going through junior high school to high school, and seeing the world from a different perspective than you did as a kid, but you're not quite an adult yet. You feel the weight of some of the adulthood and some of that despair of that upcoming adulthood, and I think that's important, like you mentioned, like to feel that somebody sees you or somebody connects with you, and to do it in a personal way rather than your teacher that just sees your class of 35 kids
Yes,
and
for
doesn't
sure.
really see you as the person. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Yeah, and we talked about, with grunge music, one of the things that resonated with me when I was growing up at that time was just the fact that for the first time I heard and saw musicians that felt a lot more like what I was like and what I was going through. Granted, I had a pretty easy life and a
Right.
pretty straight arrow with a lot of things, but there's a level of rebellion in all of us, and I think we all felt that as teenagers more than anything. And sometimes that level of rebellion is something that you don't even want to show. But then when you see it or hear it from a musician in a song like that, it connects. You're like, yeah, that's it. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, and I think it really captures that well as the melody and the um, progression, the chord
Yeah.
progression, and just how like it kind of um, has a climax where it's like he's like screaming. He's like, I just like, and I just think it. And if you see the live performance when he's like raining and he just like
Yeah, that
it's
live
so powerful.
that live performance was done, a good 12, 15 years or so
Right.
after the song was recorded, and then just the raw emotion that comes from those lines and from that feeling that he's trying to convey. And I think that's a mark of a classic or a legendary song is when the album or the song or whatever it is stands the test of time, and the performer can still feel it after the fact. And I think that's cool. You talked about songs being about being seen. As a young man, kind of growing up, like I said, I had a pretty easy life in a lot of ways, but there were times where I felt like life was changing a little bit and I didn't want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my challenges there. And I remember a song that really hit me at that stage of life, and it was actually a Rush song. Rush is a fascinating band. There's a lot of diehard Rush fans out there that would probably criticize me for saying this because I do really love Rush. I have every one of their albums. I've seen them in concert multiple times, but I have a hard time with Rush at the same time because everything is so heavy
Mm-hmm.
and lyrically, and then also sometimes it just doesn't always match your mind. So if I ever want to like dive into an album to feel or learn or whatever, Rush is a great band for that. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge Rush fan. But there was a time it was actually when I was graduating high school, and so this was 1995. And the album had been out for quite a while. But the album was "Hold Your Fire" by Rush, and the song was "Time Stands Still." And there's a line in that song, and I remember being with my friends at somebody's house, and we were just hanging out, and I was driving home, and I had a little Discman that I plugged into my stereo through the cassette player on my car, and that song was playing off of that album called "Time Stands Still," and it says, summer's going fast, nights growing colder, children growing up, old friends growing older. And just that line, it wasn't really a lot of things being said there, but it connected with me like, oh, that's me right now.
Yeah.
That's me at this moment. I felt seen in a song that was recorded a good decade before that time, by a band that really was much more poetic and much more like, their songs were almost like little books in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ways, and it wasn't really meant to be catchy one-liners by Rush, but that one line, "Summer's going fast, nights growing colder, children growing up, old friends growing older," and I just thought that connected with me, and I felt seen, and it felt like my world was encapsulated in a line of that song.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like I cannot listen to that song now that it's been a good 30 plus years since
Mm-hmm.
then. I can't listen to that song and not go back to that time of my life.
What a beautiful thing it is, though, to feel that connection to a song.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like I quoted the Smiths song, or Smiths t-shirt. It's like, don't forget the songs that made you smile. Don't
Mm-hmm.
forget the songs that made you cry. And then later it says, don't forget the songs that made you cry. Don't forget the songs that saved your life. And I think everybody has a connection to it. Sometimes where were either having dark thoughts or really negative thoughts, and the song lifted them up,
For
pulled them out
sure.
of that. Or sometimes where you had negative emotions that you didn't know how to express, and you needed to vent those or get them out, and
Mm-hmm.
the song allowed you to release that.
Yeah, I mean, I know countless times where my mom was like, why do you listen to sad music? It's only gonna make you sadder. But like sometimes it's so fun to um kind of not dwell, obviously, not dwell on it because we don't want that. But when it feels like no one understands you, or when you feel alone, but you find a song that kind of matches how you're feeling or how you're going through, or can like help you process it and put it into a different perspective in a beautiful thing like music, I think that's such a lucky thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't listen to sad music 24/7. It does not help, but I think every once in a while, I think it's so beautiful to find that one song. And also, talking about that song that you just mentioned, there's also a Stevie Nicks song.
Yeah, landslide, like you mentioned, Stevie Nicks and Smashing Pumpkins. That line, children getting older, right? That feeling. But even before that, it says, I've been afraid of changing
Uh-huh.
because I built my life around you. Now I'm getting bolder. Children get older, and I'm getting older too. Like
Oh my gosh.
that feeling of like, hey, look,
Chills.
the idea of things are changing.
It also could be like loss and like losing
Absolutely.
someone in your life,
Relationship,
whether it's
whether
like,
it's romantic, yeah,
yes.
or not, like family relationships, or
Because
even just time of life relationships, like having schoolmates versus like now having coworkers. That relationship's gone.
it's also like I also think where it talks about I'm getting older, children are getting older, and I don't know, and like especially if you think about someone who maybe has passed away or something, or it's like they're kind of stuck there, but you're like I'm getting older, and these other people are getting older, and it's like I'm afraid of that, because they won't be able to.
Yeah, and that fear, that emotion that you feel when you hear a song, sometimes it is expressed in a way that just surprises you, and sometimes it hits you in a way that you would never expect. I
Mm-hmm.
just recently had that experience last weekend. Actually, I was with your brother,
Mm-hmm.
your little brother. We were at the Offspring concert, and I've seen the Offspring before. They're a band from I listened to a lot in the '90s. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I've always liked the Offspring. It's not what you would call a very like deep band or
Mm-hmm.
deep show. There's not a lot of.
It's
It's
pretty
more like
quiet for a white
it's more
guy.
like a fun, loud, energetic environment. It's not a moment for introspection. It's not like going to the symphony where you are pondering this or that in
Mm-hmm.
life. But we're sitting there or standing there at that time, and they're playing their song "Gone Away," which was recorded I think in the late '90s, and Dexter Holland, the lead singer, and I've seen him play this song before live. Talks about how he was writing this song as he was dealing through loss, and as you know, my dad, your grandfather, passed
Mm-hmm.
away about a year ago at this time, and I've been processing that for a long time, and I'm at good peace with that. And there's never been something where I've struggled with his loss per se, but you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And just as we're sitting there at the Offspring show, he starts singing these lines about some grief in the song "Gone Away," and it brought tears to my eyes. And I'm not somebody that really cries a lot or gets
Mm-hmm.
super emotional, but here I am standing in an Offspring show where everybody's like, yelling and screaming and cursing and having a great time, and all of a sudden, like it hits you, like my dad passed away, and this song resonated with me somewhere consciously or subconsciously, where it connected with some emotion that I've been dealing with for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The world's gotten colder now that you've gone away. Like it's not that I feel like everything's wrong,
Right.
um, but there's a level of difference that I can tell. Just like
Mm-hmm.
going outside in the morning now versus a month ago, it's colder.
Right.
And I could feel that with the loss of my dad. The world's gotten colder.
Mm-hmm.
It's not freezing. It's not unmanageable. It's not a storm that I can't deal with. But there's a noticeable difference. And I think that line, like, it hit me, and it had never really been something before. And like sometimes, like you have moments where you don't expect it, and all of a sudden hits you. Have you ever had a song like hit you in a moment where you were blindsided by the fact that you didn't expect that to connect?
For sure. I feel I can't name a lot by the top of my head, but I felt that way for so many songs where it's like some songs you usually just like listen to while you're multitasking, and like all of a sudden the lyrics kind of go through your mind and you're like, wow, and it just kind of hits your soul in a different way. A song that I was also kind of thinking about going off the topic of loss or just grief is like "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd,
Floyd, yeah.
because I think first of all that song has such beautiful chord production, progression and melody that I think it just like a beautiful song instrumentally, but the lyrics too are just like kind of talking about achievements and like how like they wish that person was there, and just kind of.
Yeah, and in fact, I actually connected with that song
Mhm.
when I first discovered Pink Floyd. And again, I'm from a generation where you can't just like read the lyrics on your phone or look up the backstory on your phone. But I remember hearing some of those lines, like from "Wish You Were Here," like we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl year after year,
Mhm.
and just thinking like, wow, what a cool line, and just thinking about that in multiple ways. And then it was years later where I discovered some of the meaning behind it. And I knew that Pink Floyd had a different founding lineup, but that song itself is about Sid Barrett, who's one of the founders of Pink Floyd, who was the original vocalist and guitarist who had mental health issues
Mhm.
and left the band because of that. And the band had recorded and become successful without him, but his presence had never officially left them. They always kind of thought of him. And that album, "Wish You Were Here," was really kind of dedicated to his memory. And a lot of the songs were actually about their experiences as a band, dealing without him. And that whole, you know, how I wish you were here, and the things that he traded off to become where he's at, where they're still doing the same thing, and how he chose a different path. And that line, we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl year after year. Like we never quite escape. We never quite find our ocean or our lake or whatever, but we're stuck, but we're still swimming around.
Mhm.
That's a really powerful line. That's that's the line that transcends the original meaning. And a lot of times bands will write a song about a topic or an experience, and it transcends that because it becomes something more for other people. And you're allowed, just like with art in general, you're allowed to interpret it how you want.
Such a beautiful
You
thing.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily listen to the backstory of a song to know, but sometimes that does carry the context where that backstory means
Mhm.
like, oh, I get
Right.
it, And in fact, we were talking about this before, as we were just kind of brainstorming songs to talk about. There's the song "Zombie" by the Cranberries, which we listen to a lot. Are you familiar with the backstory of that one?
I've watched a couple of documentaries on the Cranberries
Okay.
as a whole, but I'm not very familiar.
So yeah, and that's something I wasn't familiar with when I first heard it. So I think that song came out in 1994. I was still in high school, and their first album was a lot more uh, kind of alternative pop in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And it was great. I loved it, but it was not the hard grunge, edgy stuff that I was listening to more often than not. So I
Right.
liked it, but I was kind of into more hard music. And when "Zombie" came out, that was the first single off of that second album. It had a grindy guitar riff to introduce the song, and then it had much more, I would say, kind of grunge like elements to it.
Right. I
The
agree.
heaviness of that song, and then and you hear the line repeated over almost kind of awkwardly with their tanks and their guns and their bombs and their guns, like over and over, like they say bombs twice and guns twice, and it kind of like, okay, that's what it's obviously about violence, it's obviously about war, but what is it really about? Like I had no idea.
Mhm.
And I heard that song, and you get kind of caught thinking tanks, guns, bombs, zombie, what's in your head, right? And it didn't really connect with me until it was later. It was actually somewhere where I was reading about something that happened in England, and I think it was might have been in college or something like that, where we were talking about acts of terrorism. It was around post 9/11, and you're familiar obviously with 9/11. Today's September 14th, so we just kind of talked about some of those things, and terrorism, took an escalation in 9/11, but before that, it was always around. And I remember reading about some of these things, and as we were kind of discussing terrorism back about 2001 ish, and that song "Zombie" came up as something that was banned or censored because of the references to terrorism. Just like a lot of stuff was kind of banned and censored around 9/11. You don't remember this, but they stopped playing things that would trigger people on the radio. They really wanted everything to stay positive because they didn't
Mhm.
want to make it worse. And apparently, back in the UK, that song was banned. So it kind of got me thinking, why? And this
Right.
is, at that time, so I went back and looked up the story. So the backstory on that one was about an IRA bombing. An IRA was the Irish Republican Army, which was the kind of the militant branch of the the folks in Ireland who really wanted to liberate their entire country, because Northern Ireland is part of England or the United Kingdom, and it's not a full united country politically, religiously, culturally. They drew lines there, and it had been like that for hundreds of years. And I think there's a lot of resentment that's been there, and the IRA was protesting that through acts of violence, and a lot of them were relatively minor, more vandalism related violence. But this one was one where somebody put a bomb in a trash can along the street in London, and it exploded, obviously, and people were killed, including a small child. And this is Dolores O'Riordan, the lead singer of the Cranberries, was Irish, and at the time, apparently, she wrote that song after driving by there. They're on tour in England, and they saw where that bombing was. It happened in 1993, like just right around that time. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was like somebody pointed out, "Hey, this is where that bombing happened." And she remembered the fact that a child's life was taken, and like, what's in your head? Like, why are you doing this? And that really triggered her to write that song. And I think that backstory of, like, violence didn't need to happen because you had some sort of cause that you were affecting out there. You in essence murdered a child for a cause, and her response to that was, "What's in your head? Like, you zombie, like, what you're not thinking, you like, it's not right." Like,
Right.
and I think that song itself was, powerful at the time, but like, that line connects with me in other ways too. But the backstory, like in that song, is something that really can kind of give you an idea into the mindset of the artist, and it really kind of helps create future connections too. That's the power of lyrics.
For sure. And I also think it can be expressed in different ways. It could be like kind of like sadness, like why are you like why is that in your head? But it
Yeah,
also could be anger. Like why?
yeah.
Like and someone has to suffer because of that, you know what I mean? But yeah, just also really cool how it can I'm sure there's other wars and other things that has happened that people can think the same way about. So
And that's the sad reality of art, if you will, is that the best art, the best music, the best literature um, rose from trauma, whether that was uh, political trauma, war, violence, cultural trauma, personal trauma. All of those things uh, cause people to it wounds their soul, right? And
mm-hmm.
sometimes the best way to express that, if you are an artist, is through releasing that in whatever you're making, your song.
For sure. And kind of trailing off that a little bit, another song that I kind of wanted to talk to about was Scar Tissue, but the song has so much gibberish. Okay,
Yeah,
so it is a
the
little
Red Hot Chili Peppers are very
funky
known. In
and
fact, they even have a couple songs where they're like, "Hey, unapologetically, I'm just going to start randomly just
yeah,
making sounds here." Like,
for
you listen
sure.
to Soul to Squeeze, he starts
Mhm.
with blah 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 blah. It's like,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But yeah, they have a lot of gibberish in their
Uh
songs,
huh.
but they do have some really cool lines.
But I also think art can. I think I think there's a lot of art that maybe a lot of people art, especially in paintings or different things, where it's like, whoa, that's weird. Like that's ugly, but it also tells a story. You know what I mean? So I think and there's a lot of like things about like judging books by a cover, like it could be a funky title and then like inside the book is like just this heartbreaking literature. And for me, Scar Tissue, I think behind all the gibberish, I think it's pretty meaningful
Yeah,
about just having to just like wounds that have healed but have left scars.
yeah,
I think we've all experienced some sort of form of trauma or even like an instant, where it's like, the scars have healed, but the wound has healed, but there's still scars. And like sometimes you feel like, you can't beg people to like see those scars because, they're healed. But sometimes it's like, well, have you seen this and like what you people have been through, and it's just like and how much you've healed and kind of the process of getting over that scar, but it also can leave a lot of mental wounds. And I think that just, I don't know, for me, that song really connects with me in that way where it's like when you've gone through stuff where it's like, and you've healed from it, but there's still some scar tissue and there's still some things remaining that um, people don't see, and it just kind of makes things harder for them to understand you, and it kind of ties back into like the whole Iris, where it's like I don't think you'd understand, you
No,
know?
and that's that line from Scar Tissue, the first line of the song, "Scar tissue that I wish you saw."
Right.
And it's just like sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. But
Yeah.
anyway, the idea of like, hey, I've been through things. Like I look at my body and I see wounds that have healed, and I remember what happened.
Right.
But I can't expect you to understand it.
Exactly.
And I wish you saw. Like I wish you knew what I went through. Can mean a lot of things. It can mean I wish you knew so you could appreciate it and
Exactly.
understand where I'm coming from, or I wish I knew you knew because you need to experience it. Like you need to
Yes.
have your own growth as well. So it can mean a lot of different things. And that, like you said, that song has a lot of kind of random
Mm-hmm.
imagery in it, but the chorus itself is also another one that kind of carries that theme. With the birds I share this lonely view. Like, you know, I'm I'm my view is so far away from what everybody else is because I'm on the outside, and like with the
Right.
birds up in the sky, I'm sharing this lonely view. Like I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing because I've gone through all of this. And I think that's a pretty cool line, and does like resonates with everybody. We've all
For
been through
sure.
our own stuff, and like the song I quoted at the beginning, like don't forget the songs that saved your life. Sometimes that music can emote or convey what we can't, and
Exactly.
that's why back in my day, that's why when you really wanted to like connect with somebody, like that would be like, hey, here's a mixtape,
Right.
or here's a mixed CD.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this, and you can understand me. And now
Yeah.
you guys have playlists and things like that. But
And I also just think it's so cool too, because especially with songs about like scar tissue, where it does have that funky beat, you can listen to it in like different moods. Like I listen to
absolutely,
that song when I'm skiing and I'm like,
yeah, it's got a
belting
cool
it.
little groove to it, right?
But
Yeah,
then sometimes I'll listen to it when I'm kind of like, going through it, and I'm just like, yeah. And also, I don't like to listen to sad songs all the time, so it is kind of nice to find that little bit of connection and relatability, but also get that serious and meaningful things to you.
for sure.
Yeah.
Great point. In fact, like it's fun for me to share songs with you,
Mm-hmm.
and see how they impact you because I've been through a lot of those things, and it's cool when you connect with it too because then I feel even closer to you
Yeah,
because it's like,
exactly.
hey, we now share this, and in music, great music crosses those generational lines. It crosses, Gen X to Gen Z to Gen Y or whatever that you call you guys now, but
Right.
ultimately we're all human and we all have a human experience. No matter how much society and the world changes, some things don't. And being a teenager is hard. Going to high school is hard. Adapting to that upcoming pressure and responsibility of adulthood is hard. And I love that I had a great experience with music that I can share with you and see it go through you.
I agree. I totally agree, and I'm happy that I also got to experience some of these things live, because I just think there's so like I'm so grateful for those opportunities, because it is just truly a different world and a different experience, and I think it's a different sense of community, just trying to all everyone just passionate about an artist,
Yeah.
lyrics and things. I think it's all just so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. And I think I look forward to talking more about this with you
Mm-hmm.
on these podcasts as much as you'll have me.
I
But
agree. Okay, so we'll probably have a lot more episodes like this, and we'd love to hear you guys' feedback on any themes you'd like to hear about lyrics, because there are so many different lyrics and so many different um, areas we can look into, and we'd love to explore. So let us know down in the comments, and
if there's any
yeah.
song lyrics that you love, any of you random people that are watching this, please share it in the comments because we'd love
For
to,
sure.
to share that with you as well. Because like we talked about, song lyrics and music in general connects us all, and I'd love to hear your experiences as well.
Yes, we'd love to hear it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, me and my dad, on Behind the Beats, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone.